As I mentioned, questions will be after our third speaker. And our third speaker is Professor Rebecca Van Meter. Rebecca is an associate professor of marketing. She holds a PhD in marketing from the University of Texas, Arlington. Her main research areas include consumer behavior, social media marketing, sales and leadership, and advertising. And today, Rebecca is going to talk about how social media influences consumer behavior. We're going to learn about what a social influencer is, how it impacts consumer choices, and how that will ultimately be related to company values as measured by stock prices. So, Rebecca, tell us all about social media influencers and firm value.
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for everyone who's been here. I have some tough acts to follow. Fortunately for me, my stuff is all about Instagram, so I'm going to have lots of pictures. So there is always that. So this particular project is kind of looking at the marketing finance interface and how influencer marketing impacts firm value. So we're talking about like stock market. And influencer marketing specifically is, I show you an example here. This is Holly, and Holly is an influencer for no other reason besides people want to see what she's up to and buy the things that she buys. So influencer marketing specifically is the hybrid of marketing techniques composed of endorsements and product mentions from specific individuals who have social influence. This is highly, like 90% of influencer marketing occurs on Instagram. So all the things and the data that you're going to see from this are specifically from Instagram. So at its core, influencer marketing, or IM, is a strategy whereby firms gain exposure through compensated, trusting online personalities and opinion leaders to promote products to their followers. And so as you can imagine, Holly here is kind of like a mom persona that posts cute stuff for moms, but she also posts cute stuff for kids. And so she's an influencer kind of in that sphere. So the thing that's super interesting about this is this has only come about in the last few years, and the vast majority of marketing professionals have positioned influencer marketing as a marquee piece of their overall marketing strategy. So findings from a recent survey showed that 17% of companies now spend over half of their marketing budget on alliances with influencers such as Holly. 65% of marketers plan to increase their spending on influencer marketing this year and next year. And that's kind of wild, because what was once a novel marketing activity has grown more than 50% each year since its inception, or what we think to be its inception kind of in 2016. So it's still relatively new, and there's not a whole lot of research on what's going on with specific influencer marketing. So celebrity endorsements, if you want to think about that, like the top 15, 20 influencers are celebrities who have made their mark, usually in other ways besides becoming insta famous, if you will. But like The Rock, he's super famous. Cristiano Ronaldo, he's really a high stake influencer. The Jenners and the Kardashians are all in the top 20. And all of these people like have personas that kind of come from other stuff, right? But people like Holly are just kind of your average Joe that have a voice and have become an opinion leader in this space. And so the latest injury reports indicate that like 30% of firms claim an ability to quantitatively measure the impact of social media on business performance in general, but are not able to measure the ROI of influencer marketing campaigns. And this is one of the top concerns of CMOs. So to kind of delve just very high level into some of the theories at play here, we have signaling theory, screening theory, and brand alliances. So co-branding is an alliance strategy in which two or more brands collaborate. And so what you see here is Kylie Jenner, Mattel, who produces Barbie, partnered, and the co-branding result of that is this Kylie Barbie. right? And so co-branding strategies are adopted for a multitude of reasons, but basically both companies, and if you think of this influencer, Kylie Jenner, as a company, both brands have something to gain, and they're expanding their network outside of what they would be capable of doing by themselves. And so it occurs when brands are both relatively public, and there's distinct advantages to be gained from the partnership for both sides of the party. Signaling theory, on the other hand, is described as the circumstance in which two or more actors, so we think Kylie Jenner and Mattel, aim to reduce information asymmetry to achieve more beneficial market outcomes. So in many cases, quality of unobserved, and therefore a firm needs someone else to signal quality, because quality is kind of an unobservable property. And so the signals are observed proxies for a quality signal. So Barbie can be perceived as very on trend and up with the times because they are creating an alliance with Kylie Jenner, who is one of the top 5 influencers in the world right now. So for many years, researchers have found that advertising spending has positive and long-term impacts on firms' market capitalization, and potentially negative impacts on the competitor's valuation. But researchers have noted more recently that consumers trusted firms and their advertising commercials have just really been tanking. So consumers don't trust the marketing owned word from the marketing companies. So they don't want to hear from Mattel. They want to hear from Kylie. They don't trust the companies to tell them the truth and tell them the whole truth. They want to hear from trusted others. And for whatever reason, these influencers have the ability to create what is almost perceived as a relationship, like a full-on friendship that people want to understand, and they want to hear, and they want to believe, and they want to buy what the influencers are doing. And so this is just kind of a really interesting kind of turning point for marketers, and they have to figure out, like, how do we do this? How do we do it well? What does this look like? What are the things that can impact our firm value? And so when they're creating posts, they have lots of things that they can create. And one of the things that we wanted to get to is, like, one, does it matter? Do these influencers and influencer marketing posts impact shareholder value? And if they do, what are the signals that are able to modify investor reactions to the post? So specifically, the components of the post, which we'll discuss here in just a minute, are actually negotiated in the contract between the brand and the influencer, and they can be specified and delineated very explicitly or kind of more broadly, depending on usually the level of the influencer, meaning if they're very, very, very highly ranked, or if they're more of a micro influencer or a niche influencer. And then in addition to, are the firms able to send signals that can modify the reactions to the influencer marketing alliance? And so kind of we dig into this by looking at a few different signals. So I'm going to talk to you about these right here. I'll give you a second to look at this. So there's 4 things that we're really looking at. So the first thing is disclosure type. So overt versus covert. So overt means that I'm overtly or explicitly stating that there is a relationship between me and whoever I'm speaking of. So this is a post from Cristiano Ronaldo. He's a famous soccer player. And you see at the top there, this is a very explicit disclosure, because it's using that new option of paid partnership. And that did not exist when we first started collecting data, and then they threw this kink in there. And so it kind of impacts data collection, but it is a very overt signal. Hey, this is a relationship. This is a brand alliance between me, influencer, and this company. Then we have hashtags, and you'll see hashtags is listed down there at the bottom, hashtag Herbalife Nutrition, and they sometimes have anywhere from like 1 to 27 hashtags. And we want to know, like, does the number of hashtags influence or impact these alliances? Then we have firm tags. So you see here in this post, it says at Herbalife. That's what's considered a meta tag or a firm tag. So they actually tag the brand that they are working with or in an alliance with. And finally, we have product shown. Is the product actually displayed in the picture? So you see for this specific post, this was a video and he was showing how to make a protein shake with the particular product. You also see he's very nice to wear this Herbalife Nutrition shirt. Don't think that's by accident. That's probably something negotiated in the contract that he has to have on the shirt. He has to use the product. He has to be like he's at his home. It has to look like he's at his home. He has to say certain words. Most likely he is required to tag the firm, and also he has to do the paid partnership, because that is something the FTC has started regulating specifically. So I'm going to show you a few more examples. This is Priyanka Chopra, Priyanka, I think is how you say it. I'm really terrible at pronouncing foreign names. I'm sorry, I speak Spanish and English, and that's really it. But Chopra says she is one of the Jonas Brothers' husbands. You see, she again also has an explicit disclosure. She has the paid partnership, and she also says hashtag ad down there at the bottom. And then she tags Amazon, so at Amazon, and then she doesn't have any Amazon products shown. So that's a little strange. Like, she's saying, hey, I'm using this for a wedding registry, but she's not actually using any of Amazon's products or claiming to use any of Amazon's products. And then this is Kevin Hart, a comedian and actor, and you see very ambiguous disclosures. So there's no hashtag ad, there's no paid partnership, and the brand is not tagged. There's lots of hashtags, and there's definitely products. Like, he has the logo up in the upper right-hand corner, and he's wearing Nike, and you can clearly see that he has on Nike products because the Nike swoosh is very visible on most of the products that he has on. So those are just some examples of the differences in the way that these influencers are disclosing their relationships with these various brands. So finally, like, what the gist of this is like, do these various components, so the type of disclosure, the firm tag, the product shown, and if hashtag she doesn't have any, do these things impact the stock market and have an impact on the stock market? So this is Lily Pons, and she is a Latin American influencer that became famous through being on social media in and of itself. So now she's gotten into a whole lot of other things, but she is strictly an influencer because she was just that. She had the ability to influence and be an opinion leader within her social network. And so this data comes from looking at the difference between what we would expect the stock to be and what the stock actually is. And it's looking at the window plus or minus 1 around the day that the social media post occurred. So it's the influencer firm daily level of data. And we looked at influencers from the top 100 paid influencers from 2019, and we collected data from 2014 all the way to 2019. So it's longitudinal data over a 5-year period. That gave us about 2,200 influencers. And then we looked only at publicly traded firms in the US because that's how we can kind of measure our dependent variable. And then that gets us, and we took out any confounding events. So like anything that was happening, if there was a press release, if there was a news release, if the brand also posted on Instagram, like we took out everything to try to make it as clean as possible to understand, do these actual influencers posts impact the stock market? And so she's posting on behalf of Tarte Cosmetics, who is owned by Coty Corporation. They are a publicly traded firm in the United States, and this is kind of what their stock market has looked like year to date from today. And so the results are that there are changes in shareholder value. So it either it's either distinct firm or influencer cues that impact the firm value. And so we think that there's a real opportunity to talk about how each of these different components make a difference in the stock market and the return on investment that these companies are making in paying these influencers. So influencers can be paid anywhere from, just a few $100s per post all the way up to $1 million per post. Kylie Jenner and like the top 100, top 25 people are garnering over $1 million per one post on one platform at one point in time on behalf of these brands and companies. So companies are investing a lot of money into understanding into these people, and understanding how that's going to impact the stock market is really important. So the contributions of this research are to examine the impact of the post design and the influencer attributes on the market response. So we are the very first to look at, that we can find anyways, there's not been anything published, to look at influencer marketing's impact on firm value. And this contributes to the marketing finance interface by demonstrating the actual return on investment of social media marketing using influencer marketing. And some of the managerial considerations are that influencer marketing is a multi-billion-dollar industry with potential far-reaching consequences, as evidenced by the interest of scholars all over. There's several special issues in influencer marketing coming out in some of the different marketing journals, and to explore the impact that social media has on the firm value. The influencer marketing campaigns have on consumers as well. The question remains how the market responds to influencer marketing. And this gap in literature, we clearly identify influencer marketing and define that, and we examine the impact of the post design and the influencer attributes on the market response to influencer marketing campaigns. So the research contributes to academic discipline because it's that cross-disciplinary look at both marketing and this marketing alliances, social media, and the impact on firm value. So shareholders value capitalizing on brand alliances between these firms and these influencers. And signaling theory really provides the framework for understanding the screening process that investors evaluate when they look at these influencer marketing campaigns. So it's really crazy to think that an influencer posts something on Instagram, and as a result, someone who is watching these posts then goes and buys stock in these companies, and that impacts their firm value in real time. So in real time, they're making these changes and making these decisions based on the way that these influencers are communicating about their brand alliances. And then finally, for like non-academic people, this is really relevant because there's a host of marketing implications associated with what the brand requires and the type of things that they need to be negotiating when they create these contracts with these influencers. So there's three critical ways that we believe the managers need to consider what they ask these influencers to do, and in the way that they get the best results for their shareholders. So shareholder value decreases when influencers use overt disclosure. So don't say hashtag ad, don't use the paid partnership. The FTC won't like that, but if you want to garner the most attention possible, you don't want your influencer to do that. Two, the market responds positively when the influencer tags the firm. So use more hashtags. That's counterintuitive. It seems like it would kind of get lost in the shuffle the more that you use, but the more hashtags, actually the better. And display the product in their post. They have to have themselves pictured with their product. Just like we saw Lila with the lip gloss putting it on and holding up the tube, and Kevin Hart with the Nike gear on. You want the influencer to be shown with the product and using the product if possible. So all influencers are not created equal. So we'd like to think that no matter what, if they're considered an influencer and they're getting paid to do this, then they will be able to positively impact our firm value. And that's just not the case. The big dogs are the big dogs for a reason. They have the biggest impact. And while they cost a lot more, they actually are worth the value. So shareholders' reactions are more favorable if the influencer actually fits with the brand and have larger social audiences because they have larger social capital. So that's kind of the gist of what that research is about at a very high level. And I am looking forward to hearing from you guys.